Alrighty, yo, what's going on, everybody? I got a 2-for-1 for y'all today. We got a 2-for-1 going today. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get right into this. We're going to talk about these running backs getting disrespected by the NFL. Why do they keep doing this to the running back? Why are the running backs getting so much disrespect from the NFL? And why, as the consumers, why are we not standing up for these players to get paid like they should? Players go out here and bust their ass, and they won't pay these players for their talents. They just use them, and then be like, "Nah, we'll give you 40,000. 40,000? Fuck out of here." Anyway, so let's get right into this. We got Chisel the Dynasty, then we got another one. So I'm giving y'all a 2-for-1 here. This has never been done before on my channel, so enjoy.
All right, so boom. 183 of you reached out to me to ask, what are my thoughts on the running back situation in the NFL right now as it pertains to them not being paid by their respective squads, despite the fact that you have all pros, multiple Pro Bowls, happen to be the bulk load of the offense. For whatever reason, the running back position is not getting its respect. And there was a graphic that went up that said, on average, throughout the NFL, kickers are making more than running backs. Let's first break everything down. First and foremost, that's not the case as it pertains to starting running backs versus kickers, because let's keep it real. You don't have squads that has multiple kickers on the roster. If you happen to have a squad that has multiple kickers, it's probably one or two, and there's a technicality to that, to where the punter somehow is still also operating as a kicker as well, and it's a very rare situation. So primarily in the NFL, you got 32 kickers, in contrast to teams carrying 3-4 running backs, sometimes 5 if you include the practice squad, right? Then consider where running backs rank as it pertains to Super Bowl champions over the course of the past decade or so and a half. Right? You look 15 years down the line, you don't got running backs that are amongst the top of the league that lead to Super Bowl championship teams, despite the fact that the running game is integral in winning those Super Bowl championships. So they're not going to pay that position, because take a look at the average of the life of a running back in the NFL. You've got what?
Well, Marshawn Lynch could have been the one if Pete Carroll didn't make that dumbass fucking decision. Oh my fucking god, bro. Pete Carroll. McCutcheon. Pete Carroll, McCutcheon in the sea. You're going to get the rusty blade for this one. Come on, man. Marshawn Lynch could have been one. Marshawn Lynch could have changed the whole trajectory of the running backs. But Pete Carroll made sure that Marshawn Lynch did not complete that. Because if Marshawn Lynch complete that, he gets the MVP. And they knew it. Man, fuck Pete Carroll.
What, maybe 2, 3, 4 years? Probably between the 3 to 4 year range, right? And then consider how valuable running backs are after they turn the ripe age of 30. How many running backs have been named first team All-Pro after turning 30? Adrian Peterson, that's the list. All time, NFL history. That's the list.
And now we're back to your regularly scheduled
sponsor
program.
block for the
win. Am I
win.
saying that they're not valuable? No. Am I saying that they should not be paid? No. But do the owners have an argument? Do the teams have an argument? Yes. However, let me defend the running backs real quick, because let's take Saquon Barkley, if you will. You mean to tell me Daniel Jones can get paid, but Saquon can't? I think that's crazy. You mean to tell me Dalvin Cook still isn't signed, but you have countless rotational bench-worthy wide receivers that got contracts? I think that's also ridiculous. You have somebody like Christian McCaffrey who went from Carolina over to San Francisco, and say what you will about a squad that had countless quarterback injuries, losing Trey Lance, losing Jimmy Garoppolo, having to have an unknown Brock Purdy appear to be the one who carried them to an NFC championship, when in fact it was the defense, and on offense primarily it was Christian McCaffrey. I know Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, but really, take a look at the numbers since the man arrived up until the NFC Championship. Primarily, that offense was ran through who? Christian McCaffrey, and somehow still, we have countless different running backs who happen to carry the workload of their squads, and not only are stars unsigned, but many different stars are not getting the contracts that they not deserve, but have since earned. So I think both sides have a legitimate argument. Now, I did see that the more veteran running backs are now coming together to form, I don't want to say committee, but some form of group to where they'll probably figure out different ways that they can, in unison, hold out to maybe reset the market. Ultimately, I don't think this is something that's going to end up working in their favor, because let's be honest, despite the fact that you have a number of different generational talents that'll come along, through different drafts, or maybe sometimes you can have an undrafted guy who goes to the right team and then can make a little bit of noise. But truly, because you have a college system that's pumping out running backs left and right, all it takes is the right system for certain players to go and excel. For example, Pacheco last postseason with the Chiefs, right? You had Clyde Edwards-Helaire doing what he had to do. Then man's got hurt. All of a sudden, this 7th round dude, plug him in, and he played a large role in the championship run for the Kansas City Chiefs. And everybody's sitting there like, well, that's a 7th round guy. If we happen to run the right kind of offense, and we plug in a guy who fits into our system, maybe we can see the same success. Says multiple different particular kinds of squads. Take a look at teams that happen to have high paid running backs. Where do they end up at the end of every single season? Are they hoisting up Lombardi trophies? That doesn't seem to be the case. But ultimately, here's what I think that the league should do. For one, running backs that have since produced for their squads, they should be paid. Give them a good second contract. Am I saying pay them $15 million per year, or whatever the case may be, if they've been a multiple-time All-Pro, if they've been a multiple-time Pro Bowler, and moreover, if they happen to carry a bulk share of your offense, fucking pay them.
Facts.
Because it doesn't make sense to not pay them. However, if you think you can be what's considered average and get a second contract, methinks not. I think those who perform at an incredibly high level should be compensated by the squads that they happen to perform for, and moreover, from other squads who are willing to pay. But if you're somebody who isn't really doing too much, oh, well, I only got about 600, 700 yards. And let me explain something. It's not easy to get that amount of yardage in the NFL. Please do not misunderstand what it is that I'm saying. But if you're somebody who is not completely stand out, then no, I don't think you should be, second contract poppy from the same particular kind of squad. You could go get money somewhere else. Because when you take a look across the offensive positions, quarterback, of course, is going to be paid the most. Left tackle has now, because of Lawrence Taylor, left tackle has become the second highest paid position. Then you have your wide receivers, then you have your centers, other individuals who happen to be on the line. In fact, I believe tight end comes in after center, so it should be quarterback, left tackle, wide receiver, center, tight end, and then it varies. Sometimes guard could be in there. Somebody let it be known in the comment section where the pecking order on contracts just so happened to be. But I know it's quarterback, left tackle is 1, 2, and then ultimately I believe wide receiver is 3. Running back gets the short end of the stick because take a look across the past 15 years, like I stated before, you happen to have a bunch of different particular starting running backs. Let's go backwards. You have Pacheco, that was a starting running back for this past champion Kansas City Chiefs. The year before that, who won in 2020 with the Rams? You had Cam Akers and Sony Michel. Then you go before that. Was it Sony Michel? I forget. Then you go a year before that when the Bucks done one. It was Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones. Then the year before that, 2019, it was who was the starting running back when the Chiefs won? Was it LaShawn McCoy? And there was somebody else who just so happened to be there as well. Then you go another year prior to that, 2018. Who won in 2018? The Patriots. Who was the starting running back? Was it? I forget who it was. The year before that, you had the trio when the Eagles had won. You had Corey Clement, you had LeGarrette Blount, and there was one other individual, Jay Ajayi, who was there. 2016, then it was the Patriots. Again, who was the starting running back there? LeGarrette Blount. And who else was on that squad? James White. Then 2015 with the Broncos, you had the pair of Ronnie Hillman and C.J. Anderson. You go the year before that, LeGarrette Blount came on later on in the year after leaving Pittsburgh, and I believe there was another individual who just so happened to be the running back. Go to 2013 with the Seattle Seahawks. Well, of course, Marshawn Lynch, that's a different particular kind of situation. 2012, and so on and so forth. You could keep naming off to where primarily the running backs is more by committee. Despite the fact that you have a lot of effective backs that are in the league, you have to take into account the owners are probably looking at the analytics, they're looking at the statistics, and that's what makes their argument. So overall, my take is both sides have an argument. But if you pass the eye test, this is what I ultimately think it is. If you pass the eye test and you've been dominant at your position over the course of the past years, pay the motherfucker. For example, Dalvin Cook, this is my closing point. Dalvin Cook should be employed and paid amongst the best in the league. Makes no sense why that man is currently without a job. Somebody like a Saquon Barkley, despite the fact that he had injury problems before, he came back like a phoenix, and without him, New York not only does not win a playoff game, they probably don't even make it to the playoffs. Christian McCaffrey, if he doesn't make it to San Francisco, they're not in the NFC Championship, despite, the great play of a Deebo Samuel, your Nick Bosa's on defense, your George Kittle's on offense, and the countless different rotational quarterbacks from a Trey Lance to a Jimmy Garoppolo to a Brock Purdy. I don't want to mention Josh Johnson because he only came in for a couple of plays and got hurt himself. But one way or another, the running backs who have showed that they are valuable, pay them. The other individuals who happen to be, a regular run-of-the-mill type situation, for those, you can continue to do whatever the fuck it is. But let me know in the comment section what you guys think about what's going on in the running back market. Do you think the running backs have a legitimate argument? Do you think the owners and the GMs and the different organizations have an argument for not wanting to pay these guys? Let it be known which side that you happen to back, or if you're like me, which understands both sides and truly believes that there are some that should be paid and others where you kind of understand. I'm interested in seeing the dialogue down in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are.
Alrighty, so let's get into the next video. Let's get into the next one. Let's get into the next one right here.
The running back. Long has the position been idolized on the football field. Sculpted demigods carrying the rock with a grace and dexterity that rivals Mikhail Baryshnikov.
Barry Sanders.
Blazing speed, the twitchiness that leaves defenders speechless, the power that sends opponents to next week. It was once considered the centerpiece to an offense not even 30 years ago. Bell cow running backs were a prized commodity.
Jerome Bettis
Minnesota
the
broke
bus.
the bank for Herschel Walker back in the day. In the modern era, he'd probably be stuck on a franchise tag. With how they're treated, you'd think running backs were infected with plague. The great runners of our time are afterthoughts, cast aside at a moment's notice and irrelevant nearly overnight. Think of all the great seasons we've witnessed as of late. Saquon Barkley had a year where he bounced back to form but is stuck on the franchise tag. Josh Jacobs had a breakout season after being stripped of his fifth-year option, yet he's also stripped of a long-term deal. Tony Pollard has become the headliner of one of the most prestigious organizations in football. You can guess what's happened to him. Austin Eckler's undergoing a holdout like Melvin Gordon before him, and it's so far unsuccessful in raising his salary. Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones took pay cuts to stay on their teams. Dalvin Cook is one of the most underrated running backs in the league, in my opinion, and even he wasn't spared. He got cut after a supposed down year. It's an uncomfortable reality. Running backs aren't getting paid. They're the only position where the average salary has gone down in an age where the salary cap is a social construct. They're now being paid less on average than kickers. Nearly every running back with a voice on social media has raised them an outrage over the fact. It's not that I don't feel their pain. No one wants to feel shafted at the negotiating table. But time has shown us over and over again that paying running backs the big bucks is a losing proposition. You don't need to be a capologist to understand that the game has become more pass-heavy. Especially in the past 10-15 years, it's become much more difficult for defenders to defend, be it by a combination of rule changes and the sheer godlike abilities of receivers. It's a basic efficiency model. Would you rather spend a play trying to gain 4 or 5 yards at best, or any number of passing plays that could get you 10 to 20? Offensive creativity is much more prevalent in the passing game, and the percentage of passing plays have gone up significantly over the past 20 years. In 2003, only 3 teams had over 60% of offensive snaps devoted to passing. Last year, there were 10, and the average has jumped from 55 to almost 57%. You cut out Chicago and Atlanta, that number goes up to 57.5%. Nobody's solely at fault for it, it's just the nature of the game and its evolution. I'll give you 4 words that emphasize this change. Running back by committee. The age of the bell cow running back is dead. In modern offenses, there are 2, potentially 3 running back systems to optimize the attack. Guys like Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs are traditional bell cows, but they're unicorns in the modern game. All you need to see is in how many runners have accrued over 300 carries in a season over time. 20 years ago, there were 9 300 carry backs and 28 with over 200. A decade ago, there were 5 and 23 respectively. How many 300 carry backs were there this past year? 3. And 22 at over 200. The mid-2010s were even worse, where the only 300 carry runner was either Ezekiel Elliott or Le'Veon Bell. A guy like Nick Chubb has Kareem Hunt to help out. Dalvin Cook had Alex Madison. Tony Pollard had Zeke. Alvin Kamara has Taysom Hill, and so on. Chicago and Atlanta ran the highest percentage of running plays, and they had 2 or 3 running back systems. It goes to show the cold reality of the NFL. Most running backs are easily replaceable. I'm going to mention some names from the recent past. Jordan Howard, Jay Ajayi, Lamar Miller, C.J. Anderson, Chris Carson, Philip Lindsay, Marlon Mack, Carlos Hyde, and James Robinson. All of them had 1,000-yard rushing seasons since 2016. And all of them have either fallen off the face of the map or were forced to retire due to injuries. The line between a great runner and practice squad fodder is very thin. The supply of those eager to make a name for themselves in the NFL is vast and ever-growing. The evidence has been very clear over time. You don't need a highly paid running back to win. Look at the leading rushers for teams that have won the Super Bowl over the past 15 or so years. Only one of them has made over $2 million in that time. And Beast Mode isn't even featured on this list. In fact, it's more than likely that paying big for a runner will end up backfiring horrifically. 4 names immediately come to mind. Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley, and David Johnson. All were paid over $10 million a season. And all of them had contracts that were regrettable in less than 2 or 3 seasons. All of them were either cut or traded away. Look at ones that predated them in Arian Foster, Chris Johnson, DeMarco Murray, and Shady McCoy. It's left teams skittish over paying for running backs. Right or wrong, it's no longer seen as financially efficient to do so. It's because the playing window for running backs is extremely short. On average, about 3 seasons or less. This has been known for decades thanks to how often they're carrying the football. Severe risks for injuries are well known, and they're the 4th most injured position in the league. It's part of the reason why running back by committee has become popularized and specialized. They're responsible for nearly everything. Running, receiving, blocking, play action, even flea flickers. The wear and tear on the position is extremely high, and the likes of AP and Frank Gore are incredibly rare. Most great runners either fall off a cliff in their late 20s or are forced to retire due to injuries. The risk in paying them is insatiably high. And why would you do so when they're mostly the benefactors of the offensive line? It's the worst kept secret in football. Success in the rushing game is mainly developed in the trenches, not with the ball carriers. The example that best shows this is Le'Veon Bell. His main strength as a runner was in his vision, being able to allow the linemen to create holes for him to burst through. Once he held out for guaranteed money, the Steelers weren't going to give it to him. They weren't fond of giving guaranteed money, and there were too many injury risks and character red flags. Signing with the Jets was the biggest mistake he made, moving from one of the best O-lines in football to a substandard unit. His production plummeted. Even worse, he lost money in the move if you count the guaranteed money from the season he held out. Le'Veon himself knows it now, and has apologized for the way he held out in 2018. And his story is just one of many. You can find great running backs anywhere these days. Isaiah Pacheco, Ramondre Stevenson, and Tyler Algier emerged as quality backs this past season, and none of them were drafted above the 4th round. The Denver Broncos in the early 2000s went through good rushers like candy. The Niners, Chiefs, Eagles, and more do the same because of the men up front. But I've been noticing one reason many aren't talking about: the rise of the dual threat quarterback. Lamar Jackson brought about a revolution in game planning. You no longer needed a great running back to secure big yardage on the ground. The man under center can fly like the wind. It makes the offense even deadlier. Since Lamar burst onto the scene, everyone wants one of these players for themselves. Any QB drafted high must have dual threat potential. Take Atlanta and Chicago, two of the highest rushing teams in the league. They had Justin Fields, Marcus Mariota, and Desmond Ridder become key rushers. Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia, especially in short yardage situations. Josh Allen is a main rusher in Buffalo. Hell, they run him out of fucking power. This past season, 5 QBs at over 100 rushing attempts, and 14 of them at over 50. Just like the bell cow, the age of the pocket passer is ending, and the key piece affected is the running back. They're taking your job, boys. It's only gonna get worse once more and more players like this emerge as offensive dynamos. Now the dilemma goes to the running backs affected by the changing NFL. To be quite honest, it is bullshit. Being treated like a disposable razor blade sucks. The thing is, it's nothing personal, it's the nature of the business. Trends have shown that paying top dollar for a running back is far from efficient. There are too many risks that cause them to fall apart, and nearly all of them become dead cap hits in several years. Do you want something to blame for the lack of long-term security? Your friends in the NFLPA. They got spineless, accepted scraps from the owner's table and sold you out for 30 pieces of silver so they wouldn't have to be tested for weed. 2020 was the chance to get rid of the franchise tag and get better compensation. They failed you. It's basic supply and demand. The demand for running backs is insanely low, and the supply of quality ones is quite high. Like all ebbs and flows, athletes are the commodity being developed and purchased as a product. How does it change? I honestly don't know. The only thing I can think of is to make it tougher in the passing game, and the NFL would bulk at it. It'll have to occur naturally, simply because of how the league is these days. I hate to say it, but you might have to swallow the bitter pill on this one. I expect to be hunted down by a committee of running backs for this in the near future.
Physical football team, and that's something for the culture of your team.
8 for the title, and he's going to break it on a big one. He's going to get the title by a mile as Henry takes it all the way.
Well, there you have it. Ain't really much we can really say. It's just, there it is. I mean, I hate that the running backs are getting mistreated. It's actually one of my favorite positions that I loved in football growing up as a kid. You know, when Madden used to actually make good football games and you could create a character, and I would always make a running back. I wouldn't make a quarterback. I always make a running back and have him be 7 feet tall with 99 speed and have him just run up the field every fucking time. But, you know, now looking at it now, I mean, I can understand it from a business perspective, but at the same time, I feel like the guys that do the work and actually put the work in and actually are leading the team from the offense perspective, they need to get paid. The Barkleys, the Marshawn Lynch's, all those guys, they deserve to be paid at the highest, bro. For real. Shouldn't even be no debates about it. It should just happen. But anyways, though, let me know what y'all think down in the comment section below. I'll get back to y'all. Till then, peace out.